What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS 3 Raw TV. Well, we literally just landed back from Vegas. 2018 Olympia did not disappoint. It's literally one of the most exciting Olympias that I can remember in quite some time. I mean, I've been to the Olympia where it was Jay Cutler's last Olympia where he was coming back after the bicep tear, which was a lot of buzz and a lot of stir then. Kevin Levroni's come back. The Phil Heath winning number 7 to Ty Arnold. The Flex Wheeler come back. All these things, but this year, every division had something where it was like a buzz. After prejudging, there was a buzz as to what the fuck was going to happen in these classes, and that made it really exciting. So let's back up. We landed Wednesday. Thursday was the press conference. Now, when we got to the press conference, they did a little bit different this year where they had physique, classic physique. I think it was a top 5 from each division on the stage together. And there was some smack talking, man. There was Cedric McMillan and William Bonac were kind of going at it a little bit. There was another guy, I cannot remember his name, but him and Derek Lunsford kind of went at it. Like, there were things going on. I was like, shit, there were 2, Lucky Libra, and I believe it was George Hendricks. Anyways, 2 other physique guys, they were going at it. The classic physique guys, they were going at it. One guy, I can't remember these guys' names because a couple of them are like brand new that I really don't know. They were talking about how they were going to beat each other and like they would fight out back. They're going to have a fist fight. It really got kind of heated, and I was like, is this WWE? Or is this bodybuilding? But either way, it made it kind of interesting. So from there, we go to the weigh-ins. And we went with Manager Matt and Ace. Ace is the videographer for Primeval, who was with Regan all weekend. And Manager Matt helps out, Regan and Nathan Diasha and, all these different guys he manages, basically. And as soon as we get there, we start talking, and I had the opportunity to interview Ahmed Ascani. Now, here's the deal. I have a bunch of interviews. I'm going to put them all up separately because I feel like each one of these interviews deserves the respect of these champions to be on their own and not shoved in a vlog, like a 30-minute vlog just shoved in there. So Nathan Diasha, Regan Grimes, Ahmed Ascani, Jeremy Buendia, all these guys, I got personal interviews away from everybody with these guys, and I'll put them up so that you guys can see the things that we talked about and stuff. But leading into prejudging for all these divisions, everybody had their favorite picks, right? But we're going to go with, we're going to just recap it right now. We're going to start with the 212 class. Hands down, Flex Lewis, no doubt about it. It was amazing to see him go out on his last Olympia. I think, personally, my personal opinion is his last time on stage. It doesn't make any sense for him to go in the open class. He was talking about his family and stuff like that. Like, to me, it sounded like he was just kind of bowing out. Like, he had done as much as he possibly can. He's got 7 titles now. That's pretty much the end of it. So that was super exciting to see him get that 7. And then we saw the dethroning of Jeremy Buendia. Now, this was something that, like, honestly, I never saw coming because I saw Buendia leading up to it. But when he got on stage, he was a little flat, a little bit watery, like just not the regular Jeremy Buendia that we're used to. And all of a sudden, you could just see him drop placings. And you saw Brandon Hendrickson, I believe his name is, come on stage and just look, basically exactly what physique should look like. He's got a phenomenal physique. So basically you had the whole physique in general just switched around. Jeremy getting 4th, I believe it was, or 5th. And I'm sitting here going, wow, this is like, this is the first thing that's going on. Like, we saw prejudging. It looked like he wasn't going to win. And sure enough, it was just like one of those shocking things where you're like, fuck, he's off. Now it's wide open, right? We saw the classic physique come out. Now, I did talk to Chris Bumstead. I didn't interview him. And the reason why I didn't was when I was talking to him, hanging out with him, he had a huge line of people. And I was like, I'm not going to take you away from that line of people right now. And he was like depleted. He was all fucking, he really sucked himself down to get ready for this show. So I didn't get an interview with him, but super nice guy, smiling even though he was super depleted and stuff. So we're watching the classic physique prejudging, and I'm watching them get called out. Breon, unbelievable. Chris Bumstead, unbelievable. The one that I picked that what I hoped would win was Regan. And Regan just didn't bring the conditioning that the other guys brought. And it was clear that the judges, for classic physique, they want conditioning. They're not just going with the overall classic look where you didn't have to have crazy hamstrings and crazy glutes and super striated. They definitely want a more updated look for the classic, but they want that streamlined waist. And now I'm hearing also that they might change the trunk size from the big, thick trunks to a little bit smaller, like the ones that Arnold actually used to wear. And they might change the weight divisions. They might bump him up a few pounds because some of these guys, like Regan himself, actually had a hard time making weight. We were with him while he was weighing in. He was 0.2 pounds over and luckily just got in there last minute and he wound up making weight. But again, it was one of those things I'm watching this going, we're seeing like a changing of the guard. Like there's new guys coming in and, it was wide open and, hands down, it was exciting as shit. Just prejudging itself was exciting as shit. Move into the open class. Here is where things just went fucking monkey shit real quick, right? Phil Heath, not his normal self. And I'll tell you right now, like, the stomach was distended a lot. And the judges penalized him for it. It was to the point where it was like, you don't have a hernia to blame it on anymore. What is the problem? Why is the stomach sticking out so much? He was full. He did win the back double bicep poses, but going into, after prejudging, going into finals, it was tied. Sean Roden and Phil. And I'm sitting here going like, holy shit, like it was tied. I actually had Sean edging out Phil a little bit going into the finals because Sean had actually beaten Phil in more poses than Phil had beaten Sean. So I kind of was like, I honestly thought Phil was going to come back Saturday night, be super tight like he normally does, and then jump ahead, and that's not what happened. He came in just about as tight as he was with prejudging, but the distended abdomen, and one thing that I noticed, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I even talked to one of the IFBB judges that judged him and said, did you score him down for the pec tear? And he was like, what do you mean? I showed this pec tear to what appears to me to be a pec tear because I have the same tear, the pec minor. It looks like Phil Heath has suffered a pec tear. So some of the judges may have marked him down for that also, but the distended abdomen was absolutely marked down. And Sean Roden came in, peeled to the bone, symmetrical, full. I mean, he was confident. He was, it was literally, you could watch him taking the title away from Phil, like bit by bit, pose by pose. Rami. Now here's the thing. This is what I keep telling you guys over and over again. All of you Rami fanboys out there, I love Rami. He's a great guy. He's got that big smile. Even his post on Instagram made me feel so bad after the Olympia because he's like, I know I disappointed you and some of you hate me. Like the things he said, like he truly is emotionally, he loves bodybuilding. And I love that about Rami. But he was so far off. He was so far off that Ruli jumped over him and got third. Ruli beat him and Ruli got the People's Choice Award. I thought for sure Rami would get the People's Choice Award, but not only did he not nail it, but there were things on Rami that were very apparent that were way off. Like, I'm going to put up some pictures now. So his trunks were digging into his lower back, which means the fat wasn't gone and there was still water there. And there was so much oil in his delts. There was so much of that sight enhancement oil in his delts that his rear delt looked weird. It looked like a bee sting. So in certain poses, it looked like something was going to pop out of his rear delt. Like you could tell it wasn't muscle. And it was reminiscent of Nasser back in the day when he loaded himself with the oil and he used to be amazing and all of a sudden looked really weird. Like that's where Rami was at. Bonac looked awesome, but again, his physique as far as Sean's just not as pretty, right? He doesn't have that, and he's a smaller guy even though he packs a lot of mass on his frame for his height. He doesn't have that same flow that Sean does, and Sean is technically a lot bigger than him. And it was just this, you're watching this changing of the guard. Dexter drops out of the top 5, which I would have never guessed. But I told you guys before, even though I didn't pick any of the winners, pretty much I failed miserably this year at picking the winners. But if someone's off, people can leapfrog right above them and beat them. And that's exactly what happened. Phil was a little bit off. Roden was dead on. He was dry. He was hard. He was full. Posing was there. And, Bonac, even Ruli was dead on for him. Ruli had much improved. He jumped over Rami. He jumped over Bonac. It just was one of those things where the things that I talk about, how you can't decide who's going to win a Mr. Olympia 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out. You can't do that. It has to be the day of the show. Now, whatever happened with Rami, it was a complete mess. Whatever happened with Phil was a mess. Roden nailed it. Ruli, I was so impressed with Ruli. I really was like, his shape looked better. He was hard. He was full. Like he literally had probably the best physique I think I've ever seen on Ruli to date, right? It was the best Ruli we've ever seen. And Dexter, I actually felt really, really bad for Dexter, to be honest with you. He wasn't his normal self. He was a little flat, a little watery. And coming off the thing that we saw with Dexter, I believe it was the Arnold, where he had that bicep injury or it was a site injection or whatever the fuck it was. We're seeing Dexter start to kind of slide a little bit. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be done, right? What I'm saying is he's starting to slide a little bit. Is that his age? Was it just a mistake done in preps? Could be any of those things. Who the fuck knows? But bottom line is Dexter wasn't the blade this weekend, right? So now, fast forward, we watch the changing of the guards with physique. We watch Breon repeat as the classic physique champion. A good friend of mine, Candice Lewis, who I absolutely, personally, I never like to go against the judges. To be totally honest with you, I believe the judges do their job and they do a great job. But I looked at the pictures and I was there. I saw Candice standing next to, I cannot remember her name, Vitamin C, the girl who won. They call her Vitamin C. Hands down, I thought that Candice should have won. And we actually found out today that Candice actually retired. So she's been second place banging at the door over and over again for a long time. And it looks like it's just not going to be in the cards for Candace. And I just want to wish Candace and her husband Hobbs, who are personal friends of mine, well in their future endeavors. And I know that they got a lot of stuff going on, though, how to have a family and things that they couldn't do while she was competing. And that's the route that they're embarking on now. But hands down, it was a very exciting Olympia, guys. And here's the thing. Phil's not saying he's done, right? And Sean's saying he's going to represent the, Mr. Olympia all over the world. He wants to travel. He wants to do all these things. He wants to be the best representative he can. And you got Rulli now, who's the people's champ and is now placed up as far as third, right? So he's beat all those other guys. Rulli's knocking on the door for those top two spots. So you got those three guys who I feel now that they're interchanging makes it very exciting. So next year, I mean, who knows who comes back? Who knows who gets an injury? Who knows what the fuck happens? But the bottom line is, it was super exciting. I keep saying it because it was. You know what I mean? It was like we're all talking, like texting each other, like, people like insiders and stuff were texting, like, what do you think about this? Holy shit, well, what about that? What the fuck is going on? Like, it was really, really, really an amazing event. And I'm just happy that Sean Roden, who has been doing this for a long time. When I moved to Maryland, he was training kind of, but he wasn't even competing or anything. And he was nowhere near being in shape. Matter of fact, people used to call him Big Fat Sean around here. That was his nickname, Big Fat Sean, they called him, right? And then, literally, I started a company with Kevin Lavroni and my friend Rick, and we interviewed Sean because he said he was going to compete again. Now, this is back in 2009, 8 or 9. And Sean says, I'm going to go to the Delaware, I'm going to win. I'm going to go to the North Americans, I'm going to win. And then I'm going to go to the Olympia. I'm going to win a pro show and go to the Olympia. And then one day I'm going to be Mr. Olympia, and it's not going to be long. I'm going to take that title. And I remember Kevin being like, wow, that's a lot to, like, he hasn't even competed in a long time. That's a big thing to bite off. You know what I mean? A big bite to bite off. And, Kevin called me. Lavroni literally called me the day after. And we're in an Uber driving to a restaurant, and the phone rings. I pick it up. I said, Kev, what's up? And he goes, do you remember that fucking interview? I'm like, yes, I do. Like, we're both laughing about it because he predicted it. Sean believed in himself. And finally, that came to fruition. He didn't give up, right? Last year, he bumped down to 5th. And, a lot of guys, Sean's done very well. He's won a lot of pro shows. He's solidified himself as one of the top 2 in the world, a few different times. He's been a good ambassador, and, most people like him. He's kind of quiet, right? So some people don't really know too much about him, but he believed in himself, and he knew he could take Phil. And that was one of those things where you see the confidence in Sean starting to build on stage, and you're seeing Phil start to, I don't want to say wilt, but you're seeing him start to wonder whether or not Sean's going to beat him. Like, you're watching it on stage. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, is this fucking really happening? Like, Phil's going for 8, and everybody talks about the politics and stuff, but here's the deal. No politics involved. Clearly the person that should have won. And hands down, like, I don't know about the pec tear with Phil. I don't know. He has not returned a single one of my text messages in about over a month now. He is not talking to anyone. He's not returning text messages, any of that shit. He just kind of isolated himself. So I don't know what the fuck is going on. But I do know if that pec is torn like mine is, and you guys saw in the picture, you can't have surgery on it. The tendon's still attached. It's not. You can't reattach the muscle to the tendon. The harder you train that, it rips more and more. And there are guys that have huge holes. Like, we're talking about like 6 to 8 inch holes in their chest and have a little piece of pec left because they keep pushing it. Can Phil come back and improve with an injury like that? Can he bring his waist back down? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think the bigger Phil gets, the more his waist blows out now. And the excuse about a hernia and eating too much, like, here's the deal. It keeps happening. We've seen Rulli be able to bring his waist in. We've seen all the guys pretty much when they want to be able to bring their waist in, but Phil's continues to expand or stay the same. And I think that really, really, really hurt him this year in general. And, he hit the back double bicep and the back lat spread. And Sean and his trainer, Psycho Fitness, basically said we were going to exploit Phil's weaknesses. We are going to let him have those poses. He was going to win those no matter what. So we weren't even going to train to try to win those 2 poses, but there's other poses. You win enough of the other poses, you beat the champ. It's just simple math. And that's exactly what fucking happened. So we're back now. You guys stay tuned for these interviews, the vlog that's going up soon. I am so excited. We had such a great time. I finally get to meet Lee Priest. It was just an amazing expo. Everybody that came up and said, what's up, took pictures and stuff, thank you guys. And now I'm like, we got to wait a year to see what the fuck's going on. I'm really interested to see through the year how things develop. I think that Phil actually handled himself really well. Some people like to make fun of him and call him an asshole and stuff, but on stage, Sean beat him. Phil turned right to him, shook his hand, hugged him on stage, had a few words to him and stuff. And backstage, there were guys like Rami and those guys waiting for Phil. You know, he took the time to hug those guys and, you know, do whatever the professional thing is there. He handled himself like a champion. And then he put up a post right away on Instagram, handling himself like a champion. And I hope that he comes back. I really do. I hope that Phil comes back. I hope that Sean, you know, does what his vision is for the Mr. Olympia this year and carries that title and becomes the Mr. Olympia that he thinks that the sport deserves. And I hope that Ruli uses this as fuel to try to come back next year and take the title, which would be, you're only moving up 2 spots, right? I mean, 2 spots left and you're the best in the world. I hope that Rami, after his apologetic text, which was, or post on Instagram, which was, it was very heartfelt. I know he's hurting. I know he's really upset. He's super disappointed. He feels like he let everybody down. I hope he goes back to the drawing board, gets rid of that fucking oil in his goddamn shoulders and shit, and comes back at not 301 pounds, which is what he weighed in at. Come back at about 280, okay? Diet down, get lean, fucking get hard, get dry. Fuck this mass game, because I'll tell you what, Ronan's not the biggest guy, right? But he's Mr. fucking Olympia, right? And that's what it takes. If you got to come down to 280, you're still gigantic. It makes sense to come down and just be shredded. Don't have that little back fat. Get rid of that fucking oil because it looks terrible. But the bottom line is, guys, I'm super pumped for the next year. So I know you guys have seen tons of stuff on other channels and stuff, but let me get the shit edited, and I'll get the interviews up, and a very special interview that you guys will see with the Sith Lord, Jason Genova, is coming your way too. BioStraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostraining.com is the blog. It's the BioS3 bicep from the Olympia, and we are out.